Hello everyone, Mr. B coming at you with the Early Civilizations of China Unit Test Study Guide Review. So this is going to be a pretty lengthy test, so I'm going to need every second, so let's get right to the study guide. We're going to start at the message board, and we're going to go to the Study Guides button right here. And then we're going to go to the Early Civilizations of China Unit Test Study Guide right here at the bottom. Click on that. This is going to open up the study guide. Of course, this is my copy. You need to make a copy for yourself. If you have Gmail and you prefer Google Docs, you're going to go to File, Make a Copy. It's going to bring this up. I suggest you replace this copy with your name. Hit OK. When you hit OK, it'll open the document in another window. That'll be your study guide. That study guide will save to your Google Drive, and you can type in it and everything. So again, if you will have Gmail and you prefer Google Docs, File, Make a Copy. That gets you Google Doc. If you like Microsoft Word, you're going to go to File, Download Microsoft Word, just like that. That'll download the study guide to your computer. You'll be able to open the Microsoft Word file like you would any other file, save it, type in it, all that good stuff. So yeah, there you go. File, download Microsoft Word. Get whichever copy of the study guide you prefer. And remember, study guides are extra credit. So if you're completing the study guide, send it in to me for extra credit. All right, let's get right to the study guide. We've got quite a few questions we need to get to. So question number 1, which geographic features created natural barriers for China and led to the country's isolation? So that would be the Gobi Desert created a natural barrier for China and led to the country's isolation, right? You have this big, vast desert, which was just hard to cross, so you couldn't get across it. Too treacherous. So that created a natural barrier where you couldn't really get to China through the desert. And then of course on one side of China you have the ocean. So China was very isolated, and Chinese civilization developed in isolation with not very many outside influences. Question 2. Which Chinese dynasty developed artistic painting, sculpture, poetry, and lacquer? That would be the Han Dynasty. The Han Dynasty developed a lot of things, including those things listed. So the Han Dynasty, there we go. Question number 3. How did the social order of the people in the Han Dynasty reflect Confucian values? So Confucian values meant basically, you respect the people who are ahead of you, respect your elders, respect the people who are, more educated, respect your boss, respect your king. So yeah, scholars were the most respected people in society because they did the mental work, right? They came up with the ideas and, organized society, all that stuff. Then farmers were next because they produced food. That was essential. Then you had artisans and then merchants followed by them. And then slaves were at the bottom, right? So in Confucian values, there's a hierarchy. And that hierarchy created a social order that put scholars at the top, followed by farmers, artisans, merchants, and then of course at the bottom would be the poor people and slaves. Question number 4, why did the Xiongdi tear down the walls of Chinese kingdoms? Why did he do that? He did that because he did not want Chinese nobles to be able to defend themselves. If you have walls around your kingdom, that is a defense, right? That is a barrier that stops the army from getting in. He wanted to prevent that, so he made everybody take down their walls. You are not allowed to have walls around your kingdom. That way, if he wanted to invade, he wanted to take you over, he could do that. You had no defense. So he did not allow people to have walls around their kingdoms. Question number 5. The downfall of the Zhou can be attributed to what achievement? That would be the downfall would be attributed to metalworking, right? Because iron metalworking, iron was a very strong metal, and it was very easy to make weapons out of. And when everybody had weapons, everybody started to fight and rebel. And that is when the Zhou had a lot of problems, and that was kind of the end of them, right? There was just too many people with weapons and too many rebellions and too many fights, and their kingdom fell. 6. How did Zhou rulers maintain control over the different regions of their vast kingdom? Much like all ancient civilizations, when you have this huge kingdom, how do you control something that's thousands of miles away when you have no internet, telephone, no ways to communicate, right? Well, what they did was you put people in charge who you trust, and they did the same thing in ancient China with the Zhou, right? They put family members in charge. You put your cousin in charge of the East, your brother in charge of the West, your uncle in charge of the South, right? You put people in charge that you trust, and those people answer to you, the king. 7. Why do people make loud noises at festivals and during holiday celebrations in China? That would be to scare off evil spirits. Remember, Chinese society believes in spirits, and mainly those spirits are your ancestors. But there's good spirits and bad spirits. Bad spirits bring bad luck. Good spirits bring fortune and good luck. And one way to scare away evil spirits would be to make loud noises. Just make a lot of loud noises. Evil spirits will stay away. That way your parties and your celebrations can be, full of good spirits and good times and good fortune, right? So that is why they made a lot of loud noises. Question number 8. Although blank had some positives, it also created blank through severe punishments. That would be, although legalism had some positives, it created unrest through severe punishments. So legalism was the idea that in order to maintain a peaceful society and harmonious society, you needed to have very strong laws with very harsh punishments, right? That way everybody stays in line. Everybody very clearly knows the rules, and everybody knows that if you break those rules, you're going to be in severe trouble. The problem was that those punishments were too severe. It was too strict. People were getting punished, and it was way, way extreme. And that created a lot of unrest. People started to revolt. People did not like this legalism, right? It was too strict. It was too severe. The punishments were just too extreme. So people started to revolt, and that created a lot of problems. So, number 9, identify the main invention or development of each dynasty. So each dynasty invented some very important things. First, we have the Qin dynasty. They invented, the Great Wall of China, right? They developed it, right? They're the ones who got that process started. They're the ones who started building it. And then it was added on, but it all began with the Qin. Next, we have the Han dynasty. The Han dynasty came up with the wheelbarrow, right? A wheelbarrow. We still use wheelbarrows today. I'm sure many of you probably have wheelbarrows at your house or in your garden or your parents or whatever, right? Wheelbarrows are all over the place. You can go buy them at Home Depot. Invented by the Han. The Zhao, what did they invent? They invented the crossbow. The crossbow, a very formidable weapon, right? Very formidable. And then this was kind of advanced technology, right? This is advanced warfare, if you will, right? This is a new weapon. So yeah, the crossbow, very powerful, allowed them to rule for a long time. And then the Qing dynasty, they invented the writing systems, right? They invented the kind of early Chinese writing systems. And the writing systems of ancient China are still kind of with us today. They kind of developed and advanced over time, but it's still basically the same writing system. It has, roots in the writing system developed by the Shang. So the writing system today can really dates all the way back to ancient times in China. Question number 10. Identify 2 things the Shang dynasty is famous for developing. The Qing dynasty is famous for developing pictographs and metal bronze working. So pictographs are kind of a picture writing, kind of, similar to hieroglyphics or something, right? You have little pictures, and they, obviously those pictures represent ideas or words. And then bronze metalworking. Bronze is a type of metal, very strong metal. They developed it, and then, yeah, that was kind of their legacy, right? The Qing dynasty developed the pictographs, this new form of picture writing, and then bronze metalworking, a new kind of metal. Question number 11. How did the development of the Silk Road impact Chinese civilization and culture? So the Silk Road was the trade route from China to the rest of the ancient world, right? All the way into India and into the Mesopotamia, right? So how did that trade route, the Silk Road, impact Chinese civilization? Well, that Silk Road impacted Chinese civilization and culture by bringing new ideas such as Buddhism to China, right? It also increased their wealth and prosperity because now you have all of these new markets to sell to, right? Now with the Silk Road, now you have a road into India, which leads to Mesopotamia, which leads to Egypt and Greece and all the ancient civilizations we've studied. This Silk Road was the connection between China and the rest of the ancient world, right? And this allowed Chinese merchants to sell their goods all over the ancient world and make a lot of money. And again, also, this allowed things to come into China. Ideas, most famously Buddhism. Buddhism would come from India and into China, where it would flourish, right? And Buddhism still very popular in China today, right? So the Silk Road was this road that connected China with the rest of the ancient world, and it had a lot of benefits for everyone, especially China. They got rich and they got Buddhism and many other ideas. So, question number 12. Who was the ruler under the mandate of heaven concept? The ruler under the mandate of heaven concept was considered the son of heaven, right? He is the son of heaven. He is the one who God has chosen to be the ruler, right? That's kind of the idea behind the mandate. Question number 13. Identify 3 important teachings of Confucianism. So the first would be filial piety. That's the idea that parents or children should be devoted to their parents. You should honor and respect your parents. He also had the idea of 5 relationships, right? He believed that if there were 5 important relationships in society, and if those relationships were taken care of and protected, society would be good. Those 5 relationships were were ruler, subject, husband, wife, siblings, friends, and then parent and child, right? As long as those relationships were healthy, society would be good. And also, another Confucian idea was, honoring your elders. Um, Confucianism was all about it was all about a hierarchy, right? And your elders, they were to be protected and respected and listened to. So yeah, this kind of honoring of your elders, right? Not only that, you remember in ancient Chinese society, they believed in spirits, and the spirits were often your ancestors. So you would honor your elders, take care of your elders, so that they would then be good, positive spirits for you in the afterlife. Question 14. Why is it important that civil service positions were not hereditary in Chinese society? So civil service position is like a government job. And basically they wanted to have the best people get those jobs, right? And if you have it hereditary, that just means my dad had the job and now I'm his son, so I get the job, and then my son will get the job, which that doesn't really get the best people, right? You want to have the best people in those jobs. So they made it wasn't hereditary, right? Anybody could get the job. Just because your dad had a certain position doesn't mean that you get that position. Not in Chinese society, right? They wanted the best people, and the best way to do that is to open it up to everybody to find the best person. 15. How did standardized currency benefit China? Well, it just made it easier to trade. If everybody in the empire has the same money, then everybody can use the same money to trade and buy things. You don't have to, go to one kingdom and trade your money for a different kind of money and exchange rates and all that kind of stuff. Like if you're traveling from the United States to Europe, for instance, right? You got to change your dollar into euros, and it can be kind of a hassle, and it makes things harder. So make everybody have the same money, business works better. 16. Which ideas were important to both Taoism and Confucianism? That would be the idea of order and stability. Both of these philosophies were trying to solve the problem. How do you have an orderly, harmonious, and peaceful society, right? Taoism and Confucianism, they both had similar goals, right? They both were trying to achieve similar things. 17. How were important goods such as iron and salt controlled through the Han Dynasty? There was a monopoly, right? These goods, iron and salt, were so important that the government controlled them. The government owned those goods, and the government controlled them. The government said who could buy them, how much could be sold, how much would be saved for later. So the government had a monopoly or control over these goods because they considered them too important to be just anybody to have them. 18. How did Han emperors keep Chinese economy stable during times of low harvest? Well, they stored grain. They had control of the grain, right? So they said, this is how much we're going to sell, this is how much we're going to save. That way, if we have a bad harvest, we have extra saved away, so nobody's going to starve, right? Question 19. Why did the settlements in China first begin along the Huang River? The Huang River, just like all ancient civilizations, or Chinese started by the Huang River, just like all ancient civilizations, because the river supports life. You have water to drink, you have water to grow crops, you have water to move, to transport to other areas. For transportation, excuse me. So water, you need water to live. And not only that, the land around rivers is typically really good good farmland. You can grow crops in it really well. It's really fertile because the rivers flood. The rivers flood, they put nutrients into the soil. So the river is just a great place to start. You have everything you need. You have water to grow food, you have farmland that's good to grow food in, you have the river you can use for transportation. So the river provides a lot of benefits, and that's why they started there. Question 20, how did the concept of mandate of heaven function in Chinese government? Basically, the mandate was the right to rule. We talked about this. Kings were given the right to rule. Basically, the idea was that God said that person could be in charge. God gave them permission to be king. But the idea was that they had certain obligations. The king couldn't just do whatever he wanted. He had to treat his people good. He had to stop corruption. He had to take care of his country. And if the king didn't do those things, he would lose the mandate, meaning he would lose his position as king. He would be taken out of power. So the concept of mandate of heaven was important. It gave the king the right to rule, but it could also be taken away and the king could lose that right. So there we go. That's all 20 questions. I know I went pretty fast, but I only have 15 minutes to record these videos because the program only allows me 15 minutes, and I'm right at 14 and a half minutes now. So I hope that didn't go too fast, but there you go. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and good luck on the test. Bye, y'all.